Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Ayy. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time.
Quarterback position, the quarterback position. It's one of the most polarizing positions in sports. CJ Stroud, you feel good about him? How good do you feel about him? How does that feeling measure up to how you felt about him at this point last year? Let's talk about CJ Stroud. Let's get into the regression question. A conversation going on around town that I just don't really want to be a part of, and a lot more. And we'll also react to what CJ said when he spoke for the final time in 2024. We'll hear what CJ Stroud had to say, how he had to react. We'll get the opinion of the people as well. It is a Locker Room #1 source for Texans digital content. So I'll ask the question right off the bat: did CJ Stroud regress in 2024? And obviously, when you have these conversations, there's multiple layers when you start talking about it. But just from like a sheer statistical standpoint, if we pull up CJ Stroud's stats from last year to this year, and we just put them below each other, the completion percentage went slightly down. The yards went significantly down. The average yards per attempt went down. Touchdowns went down. Interceptions went way up. He was sacked 14 more times. That does need to be taken into account. And the rating and the QBR both went down. So pretty much every single statistic that you use when talking about a quarterback in regards to CJ Stroud, he got worse. So in that area, the answer is yes. If you're one of these people who's just going to pull up the stats and say he 100% got worse, then your answer would be yes. I don't think it's that simple. I think there's a lot of things that get taken into account. But the question also is, what is regression? What is regression when it comes to a quarterback? Is it about getting to a certain point in the playoffs? Because I don't think it's that simple. I think the Texans could have missed the playoffs and CJ Stroud could have gotten better. I think the Texans could have, they could have missed it and he got better. They could have went further and he regressed. So I don't think it's that simple either when it comes to regression. And I also know that there is a tendency when talking about quarterbacks to get a little bit defensive, and you want to ride and die with your quarterback, especially in Houston where you're not used to having good quarterbacks. We were arguing about Deshaun Watson versus Matt Shaw being the best quarterback of all time over a 2-decade stretch. And if you lined up those top two over the course of the Texans' history and you put them against other teams' top two, there might be times where it's a more impressive list, but there might be times where it's more times than not where it's just kind of like, damn, they definitely got us in that area. So quarterback's kind of a sensitive topic when you talk about this. I will say this though, before we hear from CJ Stroud and before we get a little bit more into, and I talk about if I think CJ Stroud regressed, I do think that regardless of whether or not you think CJ Stroud's regressed, I think the Texans have lost the most important race when it comes to CJ Stroud. And that is the race of putting the best team around a quarterback on his rookie contract and maximizing the opportunity to take advantage of one of the biggest advantages you can have in football, which is a quarterback playing at or near an elite level still on his rookie contract. I think the Texans have kind of lost that race. You're going to be in the final year of him being extension eligible. You're tied up and you're heavily invested in one of the worst offensive lines in the entire NFL. You're giving Dalton Schultz $13 million a year. And now you're going to have to start paying guys. So I think the race to, hey, we got to take advantage of this, I think it's been lost at this point. And that has a lot to do with some self-inflicted wounds by the Texans, deciding who they wanted to extend, deciding who they wanted to bring back. A lot of that's on the offensive side of the rock. Dalton Schultz, Titus Howard, all that. And as CJ Stroud does get to the point where he gets a significant contract, which we all think is going to happen, it becomes a hell of a lot more difficult to win with a quarterback, whether they're awesome, whether they're second tier, or whether you find yourself in a situation where you're paying a quarterback like he's elite and he's not giving you elite results. So that's kind of where the Texans are right now. And there's also this reality when you're talking about a quarterback, because I think sometimes there's like a tendency to kind of ride or die with the quarterback, and you're defending the quarterback to the death, and you're willing to point out everything around the quarterback that sucks, from the offensive line to the offensive coordinator to whatever the hell else is around the quarterback. Sometimes it's the defense, to where you act like it really effing matters, because surroundings are important. Surroundings are extremely important. And I think there's a case to be made that CJ Stroud's surroundings got worse this year. Matter of fact, I don't even think you have to make that much of a case. I think Bobby Slowick got worse. I think the offensive line got worse despite the maximized investments. I think Dalton Schultz got worse. Nico Collins kind of remained the same, although he went back to missing games. Joe Mixon was really, really good, but you were asking him to do a lot. So Stroud's surroundings did suck, and they do suck. And they're not putting him in the best position to handle his business. The question is he going to be able to overcome some of those things, or are they actually going to fix them? And that's where this whole process is beginning. DeMeco Ryan said he needed about a week to evaluate the staff. I don't know what he's evaluating. It seems like people are talking about the offensive line coach.
Damn it, Bobby.
And that's something that kind of really amuses me. And I got into it today with Cody Stutz on SNL. And you can go check out SNL on Apple, Spotify, right here. We're doing very well there, daily at 4:00. By the way, some big news. Myself and Cody Stutz will be at the NFL Combine. Trip booked today. So we will be at the NFL Combine. If you're excited for the draft, we were going to give you the best coverage no matter what. We're going to be on the scene now at the NFL Combine. Exclusive interviews. We'll be broadcasting from there live daily. Elite guests. My channel, his channel. Most importantly, SNL. We're at the Combine, both of us this year. We got you covered. It's going to be elite. It's going to take this stuff to a whole new level. It just continues to grow. I'm really excited about being able to be at the NFL Combine for you folks. We will be there. SNL will be at the NFL Combine. So I'll get to this CJ Stroud thing in a second, but I'm going to tell you this. And this is a localized thought. This is not something that I think every fan base or every radio host should feel, or media type, whatever. But I don't give a rat's ass about the Texans offensive line coach. That's just me. I don't give a rat's ass about the Texans offensive line coach. I think a lot of people who talk about it, they're just pretending. They don't know if this guy's a good offensive line coach. They don't know if that guy's a good offensive line coach. Most people, not Stutz, but a lot of people who break down the offensive line coach, who get pissed about the offensive line coach, I think they're just pretending. I'm not going to pretend. Y'all know that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on the best one techs in the draft. I'm going to talk to you about the stuff I talk about. I'm not going to expect you to dummy yourself down and pretend that I know what I'm talking about when I don't. So offensive line coach in general, I think a lot of people who are breaking it down, I think they're just faking it. Here's the other thing about it. I've covered this team for a long time. I've dedicated probably like 45% of the words that come out of my mouth are about the Texans. 45% of the words that leave my mouth are probably about the Texans, and it's been that way for a long time. I remember when I was talking crap about Mike Devlin, when I knew that Bill O'Brien was running a crappy offensive system and the players and the defense were expected to overcome what Bill O'Brien was doing. And instead of just realizing that it was a lost cause no matter what, I sat there and I just convinced myself, well, Deshaun can save all butts. DeAndre can save all butts. The defense can save all butts. And the Texans can maybe figure this out despite the Bill O'Brien system. And then I started getting mad at Mike Devlin, the offensive line coach, whenever stuff wouldn't work. And I started complaining about the offensive line coach. And I started saying, and I actually apologized for this earlier in the year. So this isn't like some new thing. And I started saying, Mike Devlin sucks. And I thought he did. But then Bill O'Brien leaves. His offense continues to be ass. And Mike Devlin goes from kind of just sticking around to being the guy that Jim Harbaugh trusts to coach his offensive line. And not only that, he did a hell of a job this year. He did an excellent job this year. Beyond good. So it was more about the system than the offensive line coach. Then you look at what the Texans have done lately and where the Texans are. The last 4 or 5 years, they've had 4 or 5 offensive line coaches. They've all stunk. And I got out of that business as soon as they got rid of the first one they got rid of. Dude from Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers wrote like love letters to on Instagram. James Campen, whatever the F his name was. Then they brought in another one. He supposedly stunk. They got rid of him. And then all last year, if you go back to all last year, when the offensive line was depleted, when the Texans had, I don't know how many different offensive lines, all that we heard was Chris Strausser's doing an excellent job with this makeshift offensive line. He's doing awesome. I mean, you should have seen Cody whenever they would make assistant coaches available. He couldn't wait to go talk to old Chris Strausser. And I would kind of roll my eyes, and it would kind of be a bit between me and Cody. Okay, Chris Strausser's awesome. Go talk to him. And then this year happens, and he was terrible with the new offensive line. And now all of a sudden, well, they just need to get rid of their offensive line coach. Let's get rid of Chris Strausser, despite the fact we see how Bobby Slowick handles the final seconds against Green Bay, how he handled multiple situations against the Chiefs, how he handled late game situations, how unorganized this team appeared to be. Let's get a new offensive line coach. I don't care about the offensive line coach because, first of all, I think it has as much to do with the players as it does the offensive line coach. I think that they've invested poorly in the offensive line. And I also think that this system's a disaster, much like it was with BLB. So I'm not going to repeat that mistake. Do I think that there could be a better offensive line coach that comes in and maybe makes the offensive lineman better? Maybe. I don't think the best offensive line coach in the world could make the 5 that we watched this year that they hyped up good. But I do think an offensive system can make them better. So I'm not going to sit here and gas up an offensive line coach. I don't care. I just don't. Swarming the super chat. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Kevin says CJ was under pressure from the first snap against the Bears in week 1. The offense started the season going the wrong direction. and got progressively worse through the year, this is on Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
You could be correct on that. I'm not going to battle that. I think a guy can regress and have bad surroundings. A guy can regress and have good surroundings. I don't think CJ Stroud's surroundings are good at all. But here's the reality, though. When it comes down to that, and the natural desire to defend and ride and die with the quarterback. And we learned this within the division via a guy with local ties, and that's Andrew Luck. I'm sure there were Colts fans who wanted to ride and die with Andrew Luck. And it was, well, the offensive line sucks and it's malpractice and all this type of stuff. It didn't matter, though. It didn't matter because it never got better for Andrew Luck than it did early on, much like CJ Stroud. Different things, but it never got better. And then we're watching the Texans take on the Cowboys in the preseason, and all of a sudden, Lamar Miller tears his ACL, and that's completely thrown to the side and thrown away because Andrew Luck announces his retirement because of that malpractice. And that's the reality of the situation. It doesn't matter whether it's the surroundings or it's CJ Stroud. It's just, you just got to get the job. You just got to get the job done. That's the reality of where the Texans are. And they got to figure it out. It is the locker room #1 source for Texans digital content. Did CJ Stroud regress in 2024? What is regression? The one thing I'll ask is, and we'll get to CJ in a second, the one thing I will ask is, do you feel better about CJ Stroud now than you did last year? Whether you think he regressed or not. Do you feel better about CJ Stroud now than you did in 2024? The answer's got to be no. I mean, the answer has to. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. There's no way you feel better, whether it's stuff he can control or not. Is he the quarterback of the future? Probably, but there's no way you feel better about him. If you feel better about him, then I don't know. I don't know what it would have taken for you to feel worse. You can feel like maybe this stuff can make him stronger, but there's no way you're sitting here and think CJ Stroud stock is as high as it was last year. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. But damn, that's the happiest he's looked all year. Let's hear from him. And he admitted he wasn't having fun this year. He said he needed to get back to having some fun. I think there was a stretch where he did. Let's hear from CJ, his final press conference of the year.
Yeah, you see him.
All right, go ahead, guys.
So you were talking the other night about reflecting on the valleys, the mountaintops, and the growth of the season. How do you feel now with a couple of days to think about things and kind of where you guys are, where you are?
Yeah, having just like a day or two to go back and look at it and kind of reflect on the season. It's kind of the same mentality, just like super grateful for, the people, you come in to work with, the hard work people put in. And, of course it hasn't been perfect, but when is it ever perfect in your life? So I'm more, excited because I know the only way is up, and if even in a year like this to me, was a successful year, not to the point of the standard that I would like, but, to have another year of a playoff win and, to be 2 years in, man, it's amazing. And I'm not going to get comfortable, with that result. I want more. So, and I'm not going to get comfortable with anything less. I want more. And, but I'm grateful for it all because I know that these are type of moments in life that I'll learn from for the rest of my life.
CJ,
Go ahead, Chris.
how close do you think you guys are to getting to that next level that this team has never been to? And how do you get to that next level?
Yeah, I think we're really close, and to get to that level is really first it starts with communication, and hard conversations have to be had. There has to be things fixed and things worked out, and just really honest conversation. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is like this team won't look the same next year from top to bottom. And you have to be okay with that and learn that there has to be from day one of off season program, there has to be a standard set, and that standard has to be where I come from, like at Ohio State, was like I'm not going to be the one to mess this thing up. Like I'm going to be the one to make this team win the game. If that's week one all the way to the AFC Championship, like that standard from training camp, that has to be the standard. And so I feel like that's what needs to be for us to get over that hump. Is those if you ain't bringing it every day, you stick out like a sore thumb. And I think that mentality has to be brought here. And I think we have the guys to do it, coachingly and some guys playerly wise as well. So I think we can get better at that as well.
Some guys.
Learn about CJ Stroud this season.
Man, that's a lot. I feel like I learned, that you can't get comfortable. Like, there's one thing in this league, being comfortable will get you got. And, I think for me, I wouldn't say that I was comfortable, but I definitely had a feeling like I knew I was going to do well. And even that's dangerous, So, and I would say, man, it's cliche, but you really can control what you can control. Control the controllable. If you can't control it,
There's some good
can't
stuff.
let it stress you. As best as to your ability. It's either said than done. So I would say those two of the main things I learned was, don't get comfortable and stay hungry and, control the controllables.
I mean, this is good stuff from CJ Stroud. This is honesty. I mean, and I don't think he was enjoying himself. I don't think he said himself he got to get back to having fun. That's admitting that you're not having a good time. But he basically just admitted that he got comfortable. He said he didn't, but thought it was going to happen. It's a little bit harder than maybe he thought it would be. That's a good thing to hear from CJ Stroud. I mean, it's good that he's aware to say that. He also kind of gave a vote of confidence to Bobby Slowick. He gave a vote of confidence to Bobby Slowick. He said, coaching, we're good. Player-wise, we need some changes, which is a change in the surroundings and encouragement from CJ. So I think that's a good thing for sure. I think that's great to hear from your quarterback. Kevin Smith on the Soup says, I won't feel better about the offense until the staff changes. Fair. Very fair. Lil Blue Band says, the playoff game versus the Chiefs made me feel better about CJ. I think he played well as anyone could with Bobby and the O-line sinking the ship. I don't know about that. I thought he played okay. It definitely could have been better. There could have been more control, but maybe it's the tomato type of thing. Like two things not being at the high level. Played as well as he could. Maybe not. Don't know. I wouldn't agree. CJ Stroud is not on Jaden Daniels' level. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is better than him right now. Jackson says, even in an off year, he was able to perform at a high level despite the offensive circumstances. This shows me he's going to be great. Yeah, he played good. I don't know, at a really high level. What is really high level for CJ Stroud? What are the standards that you have for CJ? I think he played good. I think you could kind of see his spirit getting crushed. But really high level, I don't know. Depends what you expect from him. What I expected from him, I didn't think this was a really high level. Those adjustments can be, and expectations can be adjusted, but I still expect better from him regardless of surroundings. Maybe that's too much, but I don't know that he played at a really high level. Cut the sacks in half in a different offensive scheme. We make the AFC Championship game, in my opinion. Could be. Could be. Let's hear more from CJ Stroud.
For you, CJ?
Yeah, for me, just reflecting on the year, a lot of self-scout, and of course, like personal growth and things like that. And really, relaxing, it's not a crime, to take care of yourself sometimes. And I'll probably do that a little bit of just, take a week off or something and then hit it hard and, get my body right. I don't think it's a secret anymore that I can run a little bit. So, I got to get my body right to make sure I can take some of those hits and be be ready for next year.
A couple of years now, fell outdoors in the postseason, on the road. Have you talked about wanting to secure home field advantage later through the postseason?
Yeah, that's always the dream, but at the end of the day, like, you play in the cold. I don't think that really had anything to do with, the last 2 years. You look at it, we were still throwing the ball well, still running it well. But yeah, it would definitely be nice. I think Houston would appreciate that, hosting more playoff games. Every time we have one is lit. So, I'm appreciative of that. But I also think, that would be dope. And, I don't really think weather has any, at least for me, like I'm kind of a little used to it now. So, yeah.
You talked about
They're 5-3
having
at home.
hard conversation. We talked.
I mean, it's not like, it's not like they're just world beaters at home. 5-3. It's good.
Visceral hard conversations. Is this individual, collectively, or what? I mean, what is the genesis? I mean, where does it start and how does it get through?
Yeah.
For the season to come back next year, not to be standing here now.
Yeah, it's not just today. It's not just this week. It's over time, and most of them are individual, and some of them are as a collective. And for me, it's my job to be honest and my job to be transparent, and that's what I feel like I'll do, throughout this time, and with free agency and draft and everything. If my opinion is asked, I'm going to give it like it or not. So, yeah, and I think I would like that same type of honesty back to myself, because with that comes clarity and it comes just clear communication and transparency. So, yeah, it'll be over time, but I definitely think today was the start of that, and we'll continue to have conversations, and and it's a healthy thing. It's not a bad thing. It's really healthy to have those type of conversations, and even if they turn into things where it's confrontation or whatever, that's necessary. We're all men in here mostly, and you figure it out, and and we all got love for another.
We're all men in here mostly. We're all men in here mostly.
Turn into things where it's confrontation or whatever, that's necessary. We're all men in here mostly, and
maybe he's talking about the media in there and it wasn't all men. I don't know. I thought he was talking about the locker room. I don't know. Mostly
you figure it out, and and we all got love for another. You spend years with guys, or you spend a whole year with somebody, you'll learn to like them and learn to have things to like about them. So yeah.
In answering a question about why you feel like it took a little bit longer to finally get going, like you all did towards the end of the year, he was saying you felt like maybe like at first people were maybe kind of hunting for stats until they finally bought in. Did you get a sense that there was like too many mouths to feed at first? Not in the sense that people were asking for stats, but it was just you have to figure out where to go, and then you finally did. You feel that sense, and what do you feel like it took to get it?
I would say I don't think it was necessarily just that. I would say it was just like, you get like a puppy feeder. You have a whole bunch of puppies. The meaner puppy kind of takes over and kind of like can bully a couple of them off. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying like, there's certain games where like
Diggs with Tank, maybe.
You have to lean towards one person. There's certain games where like they take Joe away or they take me away, and then you have to learn to do something else. And for me, I think guys handle it great. Like for guys to have as much success as they had throughout their careers, like you look at Steph. Like Steph came in with like, I just want to win. I don't care how it looks. I don't care how many catches I get. Like, he really like meant that too, and you can see in how much joy he had being around the guys. So, I would say, yeah, it was just some of those times. It's not necessarily like we're trying to cater to one person or cater to 3 people or just 5. Or the Texans want to win. We don't. However that gets done, it gets done. Sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's not. So, yeah, I don't really think I don't think people were, at least for me, I didn't sense that of people wanting to like take over. I just think, sometimes it just shook out for some people, sometimes it didn't.
How would you evaluate the job Bobby did this year, second year as offensive coordinator, second year you're working with you?
Yeah, I think he did. He did great. I think he, as time went on, he got better and better and better, and was learning from his past and what he did in San Fran, learning from what he's done on the defensive side, put into his own scheme. So I definitely think that he has a lot of success coming his way, and I've been honored to have it with him and hopefully keep it going. So I'm definitely on Bobby's side and appreciate him for all the things he's taught me and how great he's been in my career so far.
To that point, not every quarterback has an opportunity to come in the league and have some stability at the offensive coordinator position. How much did that help going into year 2 and potentially for year 3?
Doesn't matter. Like, that's one more overrated thing. It's good because if you have stability, it means they're good. Like, that's the conversation. And I put out a video about this, about Bobby Slowick. Like, if you have a good offensive coordinator for a long time, that either means you have a football idiot like Bill O'Brien that's in charge and has a bulletproof vest, or the offensive coordinator is really good. Like, the stability thing is like, that's a reflection of being good. So it's not because of stability. Like, if Bobby Slowick sucks and there's stability, it means nothing. It means nothing. So, like, the stability thing, more times than not, when it comes to a coordinator, they hang around because they're good. So, I mean, I don't know how important that really is and how much that really matters.
What do you feel like things can be unlocked by just having 3 years with the same guy and the same?
Yeah. I don't know how people can bounce from coordinator to coordinator. I know that I can't imagine. That's probably really tough. So I definitely don't recommend that. I definitely think you can find a rapport with a guy and build that. Do it to the best of your ability. And yeah, it would be great. To have 3 years with that same scheme. That same type of X's and O's and things like that would be great. So, yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times during the season being banged up. Is there anything other than just rest and staying off of it that you might have to have taken care of?
No, yeah, just rest. Yeah, thank God. I don't really have nothing too severe.
You mentioned how you guys are close. What do you feel like you guys can do to be able to get over that hump and instead of being close, just be there? What do you think you guys have to do? You guys obviously have the talent, so what do you think is next to get over that hump?
I think, like I kind of said before, just like that standard. That's the main thing I can say is like that mentality, that callus that you have to build in OTAs, even when you're training by yourself. Like, you don't just do it on what we play on the 18th or something. We don't just do it on January 18th when everybody's looking. It's when nobody's looking, when it's just y'all in Ohio, like things like that. Like, that's where you win, and that's where you build your toughness, in my opinion. And I think that standard of like, man, like I'm not going to be the one to like mess this thing up. And ultimately, like, yeah, you'll have bad plays, but like having things that happen in a game that like can be the turning point of winning and losing, like that's those moments is in the off season, the installs of like protections and route depth and being really hard. Like, I look at like some of the best offenses in the league this year. Like, you look at Minnesota, Detroit, Tampa Bay doing great things, throwing the football. I can go on and on about great offenses. To me, what it seems like, they do the same things that they do all season and just get really good at it and just switch up how they do it. The same guys run some of the same routes, and then you do stuff off of that. And so I think that is something that you build in OTAs.
So does he want that more simple? Is he saying that he wants it to be more simple? I'm reading into it. You're damn right. He's giving us some good stuff. He's basically confirmed that they need to change players. He likes the coaches, at least likes Bobby. He's admitting that maybe he got a little bit too confident, like indirectly. He was clearly tired. He admitted that during the season. Is he saying it needs to be more simple? Like, is it too complex? Is it not communicated? Like, what is y'all tell me, what is he saying here?
And guys being around and watching tape together. So I think that's the way we get over the hump, is taking things like that a lot more serious.
CJ, I know that Tank has a long road ahead of him, but I wondered if you could just speak to what he's meant to you in your couple of years here, and your hope for the future with him.
Yeah, it's not easy. Like I've told y'all many times, to see your brother like that, like going through what he's going through, and but I kind of, if a lot of times if it wasn't a Tank, I probably honestly would be crazy right now, because man, like me and him, we go through a lot of similar things. We have a lot of similar personalities, and he's somebody who keeps me sane, and without him probably even knowing it, just him being himself, like smiling and laughing and joking around, that helps me, like know that everything's gonna be okay. And so he helps me with that a lot. I think, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah. I love Tank.
And getting back on the field, I know it's going to be a long journey, but
man, he's built for it. That's what I was gonna say. Thank you for reminding me. He's built for it. Like, man, he's been through a lot in his life, and it's a cliche, but it's the truth, man. I don't know if you can back this with scripture, but I do believe it, which is maybe not be the best thing to say, but God does give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and there's no testimony without the test. And those, like I was telling y'all, those valleys or those wilderness moments is where God is learning to entrust you with, if he can give you more. And that's where I feel like it's happened to him, happened to me, happened to a lot of people around this country, not just football. It's just, I look at like the story of Moses. Moses led, the Israelites out of Egypt from being enslaved, and they went into, they crossed the Red Sea, and they're on the way to the Promised Land. It took them 40 years on a trip that I believe it should have took them 13 days. It took them 40 years to find it. And even through that, God kept them in his hand. And for me, I go back to Deuteronomy 8, the whole Deuteronomy 8, and just how God, even in disobedience or even in wilderness moments, he still has his hand on us, and he still is guiding us, directing us, showing us which way to go, giving us manna to eat, and I'm not trying to take out of church, but man, like Deuteronomy 8 has been really keeping me sane this year. Just like even through those tough times, and for Tank, like God still has his hand on him, has a great plan for his life, and a great plan. And those wilderness moments are those times where he's learning to trust you with more, and he's breaking you down like a recycling plant. He's breaking you down so he can reuse your anointing to uplift you when you're humbled. And kind of like Peter, like Peter denied Jesus 3 times, and after that he was crushed in his spirit and like a broken heart. God used him and told him, feed his sheep. And that's what I feel like is going to happen to Tank. He's going to have a season of harvest here to come.
Jonathan, TJ, Aaron, and
Steve. Yeah, I know you.
I love this. I'm good.
Longtime friends with JJ.
Respectful in the chat.
He's kind of spoken that he wanted to break your records, but on that side, like, what do you think about what he's been able to do?
Man, that boy going crazy. Like, I'm so happy for that dude. And it's not only just for him, like the motivation he's giving to like back home where we come from. Like, dude, you have no idea. Like to see, and I'm not saying no, it's just me or just him. It's like for us both together to be putting on for IE as quarterbacks in the NFL. Like the first two kind of really to do it that I can think of. Like, man, it's big time, man. It's giving kids back home hope that they can do it too. And, and the main thing too is like everybody from home knows we ain't perfect. Like, like we probably ain't even the best athletes to come out where we come from, but you stay at it and you stay down for the come up, like, man, you can really do this at the highest level. And so, man, I'm super proud of him. Like, man, he had, in my opinion, like he's had the best rookie year of all time. And, that's what records are meant. They're meant to break. And
he knows it didn't take the playoffs to see that. Like you factor in the rushing element, he knows. But I agree with you. I said it earlier, CJ. I'm glad you're on my side, man.
He's broken, a lot of things. I would say as a person, you know, like he ain't had it easy, you know, like just his background, losing his grandparents, and you know, in the city he's from, San Bernardino is not an easy place to be brought up in, you know. So for him to beat the odds, man, to do what he's doing, man, I'm so happy and proud of that dude. We talk, you know, a lot, and you know, I'm just very, 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 very happy for him and very proud of him. And you know, I don't root for many other teams, but I'm rooting for my boy. I'm rooting for the Commanders. So yeah.
What about this season or for the Texans are you most proud about?
I would say our resilience. Like, even though, you know, like it wasn't perfect and everybody and mama had an opinion about how we could have been doing this and we could have been doing that. Like, that's life, you know, like it's easy to talk about it, but it's hard to step in between those lines. But to be resilient every time we got hit in the face with adversity, dudes playing through injury, you know, dudes buying into a new scheme they never did before. Like,
That's
and I'm not
everybody in the
saying like
league.
that's hasn't been done before, but
Everybody
to be
in the
around
league.
such a selfless group has been amazing for me. To be around guys who just, you know, want to play ball at a high level, want to win, and to do it at whatever it takes. So I think that's what this year meant to me, is just resilience.
Yep. Joe Mixon was talking about what Nick Caserio has cooked up and how his confidence is going to build a roster. How do you think about that in terms of context of, like he's mentioned, having those conversations, putting your input in?
Yeah.
And he also made a pitch for Stephon Diggs. He'd love to have Stephon back. Your thoughts on Steph?
Okay.
Man, you know, y'all know me. That's my boy. Like, I would love to
Nah, let's move on, please.
have Steph back. And man, I think we was just getting started. Like, you see, he was having so much fun, and we and him were starting to build a rapport, and you know, and really, you know, he's a person where, you know, he loves with his, you know, he wears his, I don't know what's the saying, you put your heart on your sleeve. Yeah, that one. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and in everything that he does, and I appreciate it, because in a world of perfectness, in a world of not being weak, in a world of everything being, you know, perfect, like he's one to tell you like he's not, and I'm right there with him. Like, I am not perfect. I am not the one to be up here to tell you how great I am. No, it's only by the grace and mercy of God that I am ever in this position, or you know, and he'll tell you the same. So to be around somebody like that who holds those same type of values, you know, is amazing. And for him to be vulnerable in public, you know, and things like that, like, you know, it helps people that, you know, are going through it. We're all going through something, man. Like, I really hope people like can sit there and really sit down and realize we are all going through things, and it don't make it right just because a person is on a pedestal to like get on them, or like to bash that person for whatever they do. Like, of course, yeah, like you have to be accountable for your actions, but you should definitely, you know, we have to learn to give each other the grace. And that's something that he taught me, is like, man, giving grace ain't easy, but it's definitely necessary, because the way you judge, the way God will judge you. And that's just what I believe in. And, you know, he's somebody who I would love to do all this whole thing back with. So, yeah.
Please no.
Go ahead, Sarge.
CJ, coming into this league year one, you know, everybody watched how you blew everybody away. In year two, you may have went through some peaks and some valleys. And I know that this may be a little bit too early to ask, knowing that the season just ended on Saturday. But what do you want year three CJ Stroud to look like?
It's me. Yeah, I just want it to look like whatever the Lord wants it to. If it's in my control, I'm gonna mess it up. So I'm hands off. But of course, like I got to put in action, of course, and put in the work, and I'll do that. And but for me, I just want to, you know, see growth in ball and life and every aspect. I just want to see growth and learn from my mistakes, and you know, not harp on the past, and just learn from them and learn from my mistakes and everything like that. So that's what I feel like year three would be for me.
Real quick, do you feel like you're able and you understand the pressure now being a franchise quarterback?
Oh yeah. You don't understand, man. Like, honestly, and people probably look at me like I'm crazy, but you don't know what it comes with until you put on the shoes.
Feel that.
And it's easy to say, like I just kind of alluded to earlier, it's easy to say, well, you should have did that, you should have did this. Like, I came to the league 20, 21 years old, like still pretty young. And at that time, I'm thinking I'm a grown man. Like, hey, I got everything figured out. I really didn't, and I still don't. Like, I'm still trial and error, and I'm still making mistakes, learning from failures, learning from successes, learning from valleys, learning from mountaintops, learning from it all. And I'm grateful to be doing that. So, I'm now trying to figure it out, and I'm still have a lot of things to learn from, and got a lot of great people around me to help me with that. Yeah. All right, you guys have a good one.
There you go. It's CJ. And I think that was awesome. That was an awesome, authentic, vulnerable, and I think kind of enlightening media availability from CJ Stroud. And I think he kind of answered our question that we had before. And it doesn't mean it's an absolute. It doesn't mean it's an end all be all. It doesn't mean that he's a finished product. But I think he himself just said, yes, he kind of regressed this year. We might have thought he was ready for whatever we thought he was ready for. He's still learning. This is not a immediately enter the league. The second you step on the field, you immediately know how to do everything perfectly. You have perfect surroundings, which he can't control. You heard him say that. But I think the most encouraging thing is he seems self-aware enough to know how to make himself better this year compared to next. And that's what's going to be really interesting to see from CJ Stroud. Seasons go up and down. Seasons go up and down for a number of reasons. Some you can control, some you can't. It seems like he has a decent grasp of what he can control. And that's good. Now, the stuff that he can't control, will the Texans be able to handle that? There's healthy reason for skepticism when it comes to the Texans making decisions on that side of the rock. And that's what we really got to keep a close eye on. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing goes, how it plays out, what they decide to do. But I thought that was a really good media availability from CJ Stroud. And we'll see how it goes. I hope they don't bring back Diggs. I would try to get younger at the position. Team-friendly deal. He just doesn't strike me as a guy that signs a team-friendly deal and it's just 100% buy-in. He obviously made a mistake with the contract. He's not going to get that deal back. I don't think you gave up too much for him. You traded back 19 spots. Get younger at the position. Get more explosive. Get cheaper at the position. You have to use a first-round pick, free agency, trades. We mentioned some names yesterday. Draft and sign wide receivers. Get that right. But at the end of the day, the other lesson that there is, another lesson that someone taught me is it's all about the quarterback. Quarterback's got to overcome things. Quarterback's got to be put in the right position to win if you want to get to that top level and the standards that they say they have. So we'll keep an eye on it. I think it's pretty clear he did regress this year, but it's not the end of the world. They're still young in the process, and we'll see how they handle it as the offseason continues. Again, myself and Cody Stutes, we're going to be at the NFL Combine. We're going to be live daily at 4 SNL Texans Talk Locker Room. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room.